Good morning and welcome to another edition of Our Town on 94.9 and 99.1 The River and AM 1240 KDEC. Our Town, as always, brought to you by Decorah Bank and Trust. And don't forget, each and every week we now put the Our Town show on YouTube as well. So not only can you listen to Our Town, you can also watch Our Town each and every week. We put that link up on the River Facebook page, and it's also available on my social media pages as well. Our guest on the program this morning, next week is National Library Week, and we will be joined by Chris Kerndt from the Waukon Public Library. We'll check in on what's going on in Allamakee County, get a kind of state of the county report from Larry Schellhammer. He is the chair of the Allamakee County Board of Supervisors, and Larry will join us on the program this morning. But first things first this morning, some big changes happening to health insurance. Normally not the time of year we talk about health insurance, but some big changes are happening after the most recent federal COVID-19 legislation passed. And here to update us on all what is going on related to healthcare is Brian Huinker from Group Benefit Partners in Decorah. Brian's our first guest this morning on Our Town on 94.9 and 99.1 The River and AM 1240 KDEC. It's kind of a weird time of year to be talking about health insurance, but whenever we need to talk about health insurance, we talk to our guy with Group Benefit Partners, Mr. Brian Huinker. Good to talk to you face-to-face, my man.
Good to see you, Swens.
Some exciting news coming out regarding tax credits and those with plans on state exchanges. Tell us about that.
Yeah, very interesting. With the passage of the America Rescue Plan Act, ARPA, with the passage of that, increased subsidies for people at all levels that had previously enrolled for January 1st. It's kind of an active process, so you're going to need to know what you're doing to be able to do that. The other big news is that the income cliff that was there before, that a lot of folks that were right on the edge couldn't afford to take the chance that if they'd made too much money, they could go backwards really fast. That cliff is no longer there. So that's as big of news as anything really we've seen since the onset of the act.
And let's talk about the last part of that. Basically, those older folks that might be making just a little too much money in years past to really qualify for a plan on the exchange. I'd imagine there's a good amount of people in that 60 to 62 area that are sitting there saying, can I retire? Can I not retire? How long do I have to make it till 65? Do I have to pick up my spouse's insurance, et cetera, et cetera? Is this piece of legislation kind of earmarked at those folks?
It really is. Those folks in their mid 50s to 60s, this is a game changer. One other item I didn't mention was that this is for 2021, and they've already committed to 2022. So we're really looking at a 19-month kind of window here that the rules changed. Who knows what will happen, for sure after that, but it seems like they're tightening their grip. They're fixing some things that were huge problems before. It's not going to be uncommon based on the quotes we've run for two 62-year-olds making $60,000 a year, or, well, I should say 75. So they're just past the income threshold. They could potentially save $1,500 to $2,000 a month if they're buying a private plan today. It's nuts.
And what if you are on a state exchange plan as of this time? What do you say those folks should be alerted of? Obviously, everybody's situation is different, and that's why you talk to individuals one-on-one to see what the best plan is for them. But what should those folks be aware of with this new legislation?
Well, they're going to be able to, if they go through an active re-enrollment process, they're going to be able to get likely a better plan, lower deductible, lower out of pocket at a lower cost. Now I caution them, and it's self-serving to say use an agent. We'd love it. We'd love it if they used us, but use somebody. There's so many folks out there that have done it on their own that this process is not going to be easy. If you press the wrong button, do the wrong thing, you could potentially reset your deductible and plan, and have it could be a situation that's not in your best interest. So you need an expert set of eyes that know what's going on before you go in there and think you're doing a good thing and it ends up costing you down the road.
And if you just sit on your plan and do nothing, you could get more money back on your taxes, from what I understand. Is that correct?
Very likely. That is very possible. So the folks we're trying to hit the folks that had maybe a bronze plan before. If you're paying a fair amount in premium, we could potentially lower that. But really, we're going at anybody out there that has a private plan through whomever it may be. You would be very well served to consider going through the exchange now with these new income guidelines. So, I mean, I can't tell you the amount of people we talk to that make a little bit too much. They're paying $25,000 a year because they're making $100,000 of income. Well, at 8.5% of your income, instead of paying $20-some thousand a year, you're going to pay $8,500 for you and your spouse. It's going to be a huge savings for some, but the word's got to get out, and try to see somebody local to help you through the process.
And from what I understand, there was kind of a new open enrollment period that was started by the Biden administration in January. Is that period still active?
Still active. It was supposed to end May 15th for plans effective June 1st. They've extended it now till August 15th, which is damn near through the whole year. So we have time, but the key is to be able to take advantage of this stuff for those folks that are sitting out there on really expensive individual plans that are unsubsidized. Now is the time to call.
So in other words, you folks will have a busier summer than in years past. Is that fair to say?
It's fair to say, and we'll leave it at that. We're happy to help, but it's mixed emotions from our team on. We just went through the heartache of the season. Now it'll be fine. We'll get the job done. For most people that already enrolled, it's going to be relatively simple phone call to just adjust over the phone. So we're talking 5 minutes for those that have enrolled. Then we would encourage those that did it on their own to seek help this time around. It doesn't cost you a penny, and you're going to want to make sure you have everything right.
And I'd imagine it's just a situation with this new stuff coming on board, just to take a look at everything and kind of update things and see where you're at and potentially save some dough.
Absolutely. The rules have changed. It is what it is. And there's money to be saved and better deductibles and plans out there. So happy to help. And it's, people have mixed emotions politically about some of this stuff, but this is the law. These are the rules. We just try to help people make the best decision they can financially for themselves and their family.
And with what healthcare legislation has been the last 5 to 10 years, as long as you've been in your current position, has the marketplace and those of you that work in the insurance industry kind of adjusted to the fluidity of the situation, knowing the fact that things are going to change as time goes by?
Yeah, this is interesting. I mean, this is somewhat in a response to, I would say, some of our agent issues, is that there was a hard dollar amount, a hard cliff that now has softened. I think that's a positive. The implications, we don't know what they'll be. Will groups drop their plans and just have people go buy individual insurance? That's a possibility. I would say from our business, we knew this day could come, so we've tried to be, well-rounded to be able to help folks in the tri-state with small group, large group, and individual policies along with Medicare to try to be a one-stop shop. We're not, here in Northeast Iowa, Southeast Minnesota, Southwest Wisconsin, we're not littered with 20,000 employee companies or, gigantic outfits. So we've got to be nimble and know the rules to be able to help everybody we can.
Anything we're missing? Anything else we need to touch on?
I don't think so at this time. I'm sure something will change tomorrow and I'll be happy to talk again.
All right, Brian, whenever there's changes in the health insurance world, good that we have a guy to talk to. And folks that want to get a hold of Group Benefit Partners, how do they do so?
382-2981. Your best bet is to ask for Nikki, Peggy, or Evan.
Or Brian.
Golf season starts Friday.
Noted. Anyway, so ask for Brian Monday through Thursday.
There you go. For
everybody else 5 days a week. But, nonetheless, Brian, we appreciate you updating us on what's going on in the health insurance world. And until the next time legislation changes, we'll chat again.
Sounds good. Thanks, Wentz.
Brian Huinker with Group Benefit Partners here in Decorah. Having a conversation this morning with the chair of the Allamakee County Board of Supervisors, Larry Schellhammer, and we like to touch base with the supervisors about budget time. And Larry, you guys approved your budget earlier this week. You were able to keep the levy rates pretty much the same as they were in years past. From a budget standpoint, were there any special challenges putting together the budget in a year like this, or did it go as smooth as it possibly could?
Well, there's always a few things that come up every year when you do budgets. This year, obviously, we were concerned about where we would come with the COVID situation, how that was going to impact our budget. Realistically, that had very little impact on any of our revenue sides. Our property taxes were good. Our assessments were good. So we were able to keep things in line with what we've done in the past. The only probably things that we saw that were maybe a little unusual this year was we do our public health a little bit differently than some counties. We contract with our local hospital for public health, and they asked us a couple times if we could help them out with a little more funding, and we were able to do that, and we did that going into next year as well. So they obviously have something going on that they needed a little more money.
No doubt about it. And how were you able to keep yourself immune from any economic turndown when it came to the revenue streams that you're coming in? Or is it a case of the revenue streams that the county relies on are going to be pretty steady just the way you got things structured?
Well, I think, things are structured very well. We have a fairly stable property tax base. Obviously, we'd like to see that increase with more building projects and that kind of thing. But I think one thing that maybe stood out last year was the fact that Allamakee County is definitely a destination for Eastern Iowa. And when people were suddenly confronted with the fact that they couldn't go anywhere major, they found us. And a lot of the summer homes, I think a lot of people just came and stayed because they couldn't go anywhere or couldn't go on their major vacation. So we benefited a lot from that, from just local travel. Our local option sales tax revenues were kind of off the charts last year, way higher than anybody anticipated. And our fuel tax numbers were very good. So we felt very strongly that, we are a destination for Eastern Iowa, and it showed last year.
And when you bring up those two revenue streams, the local option sales tax as well as the fuel tax situation, with those being a little higher than you expected them to be, will that allow you to do anything this year that perhaps you didn't expect to do?
I would say probably not. I think it was nice to know that we didn't lose any ground. We try to keep those all kind of in check anyway, but as far as major projects, there wouldn't be enough in there to impact anything major. We do see another round of money being made available. We're just now getting information on that. I think it's going to be based on population, but honestly, we don't know if we're going to be able to use a lot of it. We didn't see any losses like a lot of counties did. It's pretty restrictive on where you can use it. We already received CARES money and a lot of that kind of thing. So we actually feel we're in pretty good shape. We certainly don't want to jump into a bunch of this money and then not use it wisely or use it appropriately. So we're going to proceed very cautiously with any additional funding that comes in. Our secondary roads looks like they are in line to receive some. And when you start talking about roads, money just disappears anyway. So we will certainly find a home for it in secondary roads.
How busy of a summer is it going to be from a project standpoint when it comes to secondary roads?
Well, we've got a lot of projects planned. We had one major one that we had a little difficulty buying right away, so we had to kind of move things around a little bit, but we've got projects planned. One thing we've seen is that bids that are coming in on some of these projects are up considerably. So that's been a little bit of a challenge. We have our estimates when we go out to bid. We think we're pretty close, but the way things are changing so quickly as far as products that we need or services that we need for those kind of projects, they are just inflating higher than what we anticipated. So I think that's going to be the way it is. Contractors are busy. They're not hungry for work. So they're not bidding. They don't have to bid as competitively. I mean, they're still competitive bids, but realistically, there's plenty of work. So they don't have to be overly aggressive.
As part of the passage of the budget, you accepted the recommendations of the county's compensation board. You as a board this year decided not to take a pay increase. What made you come to that conclusion?
That's, raises are always the hardest thing, I think, for us, because we believe everybody that works here at the county is part of a family, part of a, it's our employee base. We look out for each other. It's hard to say who should or shouldn't have more raises, but as far as the board is concerned, we are very comfortable with the raise package or with the wage package that we have. We had a new member this year, and he was fairly adamant about, it's hard to just come in and 4 days later give yourself a raise. So he didn't want to be part of that, and we understand that. But overall, the three of us on the board, we're very comfortable with the package we have, and just think it's a sign to the county that we're trying to do our best, fiscally. I know that the comp board, when they come in, they always kind of slap our hands and say, you need to take these raises. You're getting, our salary range and the supervisors down to a point where we still need to attract people. 2 years from now, there will probably be two of us that will be giving up our spot here. And you need it to be attractive to the point that somebody's going to want to do it. It is a lot of work. It does take a lot of your time, and you have to be very flexible with your employer if you're going to have a job outside of this. So it needs to, it does need to have a decent pay raise or a pay wage, I should say. But for the three of us, we're very comfortable with where we're at.
And when you go about determining the pay increases for other folks, what plays into the decisions that you make? You mentioned it's a challenge. You want to treat people fairly. You want to treat people like they're a big part of the county employee family. What factors do you play into account that, hey, this person deserves that and this person deserves that?
Well, usually we kind of go back to our labor contracts to see where we line up with those. And then we kind of base it off those. The other factor that comes in would be your cost of living increases. The last few years, that's been very flat. So that's been very helpful. I have some concerns that that's probably not going to be the case the next few years, but we have always kind of started with that fact. And then we try to make sure that everybody gets percentage-wise the same. And that's difficult because we have boards and commissions that are in control of their own budget. And then they make the recommendations for the people that are in their area. And that gets to be a little bit more of a challenge because then we have individuals that might get a 4 or a 5, not saying they don't deserve it, but then that everybody else takes a look at that and goes, well, why didn't I get a 4 or 5? So we do have a few of those that happen kind of every year. And we're trying to get some of our people that maybe are on the lower side statistically in the state where they rank. And we've been trying to get those more in line as we go along.
And we bring back to our initial part of the conversation, the property tax levy, the rate asking pretty much going to be the same as last year. But in certain cases, you got valuations going up. That means folks will pay more in property taxes, even though the levy rate remains the same. Talk about how that balances all out. How does the county come to that level that this property needs to be evaluated a little bit higher? And even though the rate's the same, that folks might be paying a little bit more. It's a complex question, and I'm finally figuring out why I took algebra in high school.
Well, yeah, it is. And the state is involved in that through our assessor's office. So there's a range that we have to be in as far as a sales range. So if a property sells for $100,000, and we have it valued at $85,000, that's a problem. If that property sells for $100,000 and we have it valued at $115,000, that's a problem. So there is a range that's set up by the state that our assessor has to have all the residential properties in line with. Then they use actual sales to kind of determine that. Probably the hardest part for people to understand in Allamakee County is the people that live along the river, that have the river view that everybody seems to want, and that has driven up prices to an extent that they're seeing some significant increases. They have these homes that maybe they paid $250,000 for 15 years ago, and now all of a sudden they're double that in value, and they question that. But the key question is, if somebody offered you $250,000 for that $500,000 house, would you take it? And they'd no, I would never sell it for that. So we have to be realistic. We have to keep it within the parameters that the state gives us. And what happens in any part of the county is always good. If there's an increase in the property values in Harper's, that's good for everybody else because it is a pooling effect. Then you get into the ag land, and that's a whole different animal. There's a rollback involved in that. So the valuations might have went up, but the rollbacks, kind of take that out. So there's a certain level to what they can increase or decrease in a given year as well. So it's more regulated by the state than by us, I would say.
And final question for you, Larry, just with the overall state of the county, what makes you the most optimistic at this time that things can keep moving in the right direction? What's going to be the biggest challenge here come fiscal year 2022?
I think we're setting up for a really good year this year. The amount of money that's been pumped into the economy through the stimulus money and the CARES money and some of that, there's a lot of money getting pumped in, and there's a lot of pent up people that want to get out and do things and spend money. I think they feel like last year was just a pause button. So I think there's a lot of pent up enthusiasm to do things. The only downside I see is that things are getting so expensive, especially if you want to build a home, or if you're looking at something like that, the cost of those kind of things are way up, and we might see a little bit of a downturn in building projects and new building permits. That could be something down the road. They take time to be added to our tax rolls anyway, but that could be an issue. I think we're going to see some inflation come back, which probably is going to be more of an impact in the next 3 or 4 years than we've had in a long time. I'm guessing that we're probably going to see, when we go out to bid in the fall for our LP and our gas, I'm sure that they're going to be higher than what they've been in the past. So there's going to be some changes coming. I know that we're looking at our power plant in Allamakee County will be closing here in the next year or two. So those are all things that we're planning for and trying to get ahead of, but you never know what's around the corner. I guess the fun part of the job too is you never know who's going to walk in the door. You never know what's coming next.
All right, Larry. Well, we appreciate your update on what's going on Allamakee County wise. And as always, we appreciate your time. Thank you.
Hey, thanks for having me, Darren. Larry
Schellhammer is the chair of the Allamakee County Board of Supervisors. Next week is National Library Week, and here to talk about libraries and the role they play in communities is Chris Kerndt from the Waukon Public Library. And Chris, obviously the world's been a different place since 12 months ago, but the Waukon Public Library is pretty much keeping up a lot of the services that they provided pre-COVID. How have you been able to manage this, but still fulfill your mission as a community, as a vital part of the community?
Well, one of the things that we wanted to do is we wanted to get open and offer services as soon as we possibly could. So we're taking precautions. You're welcome to wear masks when you're on property. All the staff wears masks at the desk. We do open all of our study rooms, and our community rooms are all open right now. All of our computer services are open, and browsing services are open. So pretty much anything that is basic to the library is open right now. The only thing that we're not doing is any in-library programming, which means anything that we congregate a large group. Story times, those are all on hold for now. We're hoping sometime this summer we'll start those up again. And of course, we have all of our online databases have been open since while we were even closed. They were available. So the other thing we do have for people who are still concerned, we do have curbside service. So if you don't want to come into the library, we can just give us a call, email us, or you can go onto the catalog and place holds. We'll pull all the books for you, check them out, and take them right out to your car.
And how appreciative has your community been, knowing the fact that a lot of the services have still been provided, even though many places in the world have slowed down services for obvious reasons?
Right. We've had a lot of patrons come in and say, thank you, we're so glad you're open. And I can understand that if you're home and you can't do stuff, you want a book to read or a magazine to read or something to read or listen to. So we give people options for things that they can do at home.
And when you look at the regular services that you provide, and I know this probably is an open-ended general question, what are the regular services that you provide at the Roby Memorial Library?
Just in general, we have books and browsing. So we have books for infants through adults, fiction, nonfiction. We also have audiobooks on the property that you can check out. We have CDs, and we have digital playaways, which you just need a set of headphones for. So those are all of our checkouts. We do have magazines as well to check out. And then we have DVDs, music CDs to check out as well. So those are our basic checkout items. Then we have study rooms available. You can come in and either reserve it in advance or just come in and see if it's available. They're small rooms for 2 to 8 people that you can meet in. You can use our Wi-Fi services through. And then we have our community room, which is for nonprofit groups that want to meet from the community. And that's available to reserve also 6 months in advance. And then we have our computer services. So we have 8 computers that are in the library that our patrons can use. And then we have Wi-Fi. So you can bring your own device in and connect to our Wi-Fi services.
And as we get into a more of a digitized world as time goes by, how have libraries been able to adapt to the modern world? Because I'd imagine, like any industry, you guys are a lot different than you were 10, 15 years ago.
Right. We do have online services that are provided through the state library, and we just subscribe to as a small library in the state of Iowa. We have which is what is called Bridges, which is our online ebook and audiobook checkout site. So as long as you have a library card and you live in Allamakee County, you can have access to those services. And basically, it's a second collection besides what we have in the library. So that's completely different from what we have here. So it basically doubles or triples the collection that we have available. We have online databases with journals and newspaper articles, magazine articles. Those are all free with a library card. We have what's called Credo Reference, which is an online encyclopedia dictionary database. So it has all kinds of topics. And again, library card. You just need a library card to log in. It's all free. And then a couple other services that we have that are a little bit step away from the research and reading. We have Transparent Language Online, which is a free database with your library card to learn over 100 languages. And
Wow.
It's a nice process, walks you through. It has little mini lessons. So you learn pronunciation, you learn how to spell and all of that stuff through it. And then we have the Job Now and Vet Now database, which is for job seekers and veterans. And it's a really nice service because it does give you live help. And that's all separate from us. You just need a library card to access it.
And who is eligible to receive a library card from your library?
Okay, so most of the services that I just mentioned, all the database services, anybody who lives in Allamakee County can access that. But we do allow people from Iowa to get a library card and also from out of state. So if you live in Iowa but not in Allamakee County, you don't have access to any of the databases, but you can check out items from our library. Same with out of state, but there is a fee for that because we don't get any of the monies. If you live in a different state, all of our money comes from taxes basically. And so we just charge you 20 bucks a month or 20 bucks a year for a library card from out of state. So, and they would have access only to the in-library services, not the database services.
For all those for 20 bucks, not a lot better deal than that though, is there?
No, it's awesome. Yeah.
And next week is National Library Week. Might seem like an obvious question, but what is the goal, the purpose, the reason that there is a National Library Week each and every year?
We just celebrate libraries, and this year it's kind of the theme is to welcome people back into the library because there will be a lot of libraries that are opening across the nation in this summer, hopefully. And so since we've been open since last June, we're still encouraging people to come back and use the library. And actually, we'll probably be celebrating all month because we have little packets that our teen advisory boards put together and sponsored by our foundation. So first 100 people who come in starting tomorrow, they get to take one home with them. It just has some little goodies in it and all the list of all the things that our library provides the community. So.
And anything else you want to pass on about the services that you provide? Anything else the public needs to know about the Roby Memorial Library in Waukon?
The only other thing I would suggest is if you want to know when we start our in-library programming or anything that's coming up or what we're doing here, make sure you jump on our website. We update that all the time. It's www.waukon.lib.ia.us. And then we are also on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. So we post all of our events and other stuff on there as well. So that's where you're gonna find the most information. So.
All right, Chris, we appreciate you taking some time and talking about all the things that you guys provide for the community. We appreciate everything you provide for the community. And let me be the first to wish you a happy National Library Week starting next Monday, but every day is something to celebrate at the Roby Memorial Library.
Thank you.
Chris Kerndt from the Roby Memorial Library in Waukon. Next week, National Library Week. Our thanks to our guest on the program this morning, Chris Kerndt from the Waukon Public Library. National Library Week coming up next week. Also, we want to thank Larry Schellhammer, the chair of the Allamakee County Board of Supervisors, for joining us, as well as Brian Huinker from Group Benefit Partners. Our Town, as always, brought to you by Decorah Bank and Trust. And don't forget, you can watch Our Town at the YouTube channel. We link a link to that each and every week on the River Facebook page. So we thank our guests. We thank Decorah Bank and Trust, our sponsor, and we thank you for tuning in, logging on, or watching Our Town on 94.9 and 99.1 The River, and AM 1240 KDEC.